Salt carries power most people overlook. Ancient civilizations revered it, not just for taste, but for protection, purity, and transformation. Salt was placed at thresholds, corners, and sacred spaces to cleanse energy, ward off negativity, and invite blessings. What if the same simple, humble substance could awaken your home and spirit in ways you never realized? And today, I will show you 5 precise places in your home where placing salt can shift the energy around you. These are not random spots. Each placement follows principles that have been practiced for centuries in Shaolin teachings, blending mindfulness, spiritual discipline, and personal mastery. You will discover how small, intentional acts in your space can align unseen energies, influence your focus, calm your mind, and invite divine movement into your life. Many overlook the subtle ways their surroundings shape their inner world. Salt, in its quiet simplicity, becomes a bridge between the physical and spiritual, a tool to awaken awareness, to create protection, and to channel energy where it is most needed. Today, I will guide you through these 5 sacred points, revealing ancient wisdom that has been hidden in plain sight, connecting everyday life with the profound teachings of Shaolin. By the end of this video, you will understand not just where to place salt, but why these locations matter, how they interact with the flow of energy in your home, and how this simple practice can strengthen your discipline, mindfulness, and spiritual presence. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire, a place where ancient wisdom meets everyday life. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the hidden power around you and within you. The transformation begins with awareness, and it starts here. Every journey begins at a threshold, a doorway that separates the world outside from the sanctuary within. This is more than wood and metal. It is the first point where your energy meets the energy of everything beyond your walls. Every person who enters, every thought that lingers at the edge of your home leaves a mark. And in Shaolin practice, we learn that the doorway is sacred. It is a line of balance, a boundary where the unseen forces of the world can influence your inner life. Placing salt at this threshold is not superstition. It is a mindful act of setting intention. The salt does not simply sit there. It absorbs, it transforms, it creates a quiet space where only what serves your clarity and peace can enter. Think of it this way. Your doorway is like the mouth of a river. If the flow is blocked or muddied, the water stagnates, the current loses strength. If the flow is tended, purified, the river nourishes everything it touches. Salt becomes your tool to shape that flow. It establishes boundaries without aggression. It repels what disrupts balance, while welcoming what aligns with purpose. Shaolin wisdom teaches that external thresholds mirror the internal. Awareness of this doorway, this point of exchange, trains the mind to discern, to recognize what belongs and what must be released. It is discipline practiced in simplicity, a reminder that mastery is not only in action but in observation, in subtle choices. When you place salt here, you are not merely guarding a home, you are cultivating presence, protecting the energy that forms the foundation of every thought, every decision, every moment of peace inside. It is a quiet, powerful ritual, and its effects extend far beyond the visible, shaping both the space you inhabit and the mind you carry through it. Corners are the silent keepers of energy that often goes unnoticed. They hold what lingers, stagnant thoughts, unresolved tension, emotions that have no voice. Just as the mind stores what is unexamined, the corners of a home quietly collect what is left behind, shaping the feeling of the space without anyone seeing it. Placing salt in these hidden spaces is an act of intention. It is not about the salt itself, but about the awareness that guides it. When you move deliberately to purify a corner, you are practicing the same discipline needed to confront the hidden corners of the mind. Each grain becomes a symbol, absorbing what clouds clarity, making room for light to enter. In Shaolin thought, mastery begins with the subtle. External order reflects internal order, and neglect of small spaces mirrors neglect of the self. A corner left unattended may seem insignificant, yet it quietly influences the energy of the whole. To attend to it is to cultivate presence, patience, and care. This practice teaches a deeper lesson. Clarity is not achieved by grand gestures alone, but through consistent attention to what is often overlooked. As salt purifies the unseen corners of a home, so too does reflection cleanse the unseen corners of the mind. Recognizing the patterns that linger in quiet spaces, both within and around us, becomes a path to self-mastery. When attention flows to what is hidden, tension softens, and the mind learns to move with calm precision. Discipline reveals itself not as force, but as a steady, deliberate cultivation of awareness. The act of placing salt, simple though it may appear, becomes a meditation, a lesson in care, and a bridge between the world outside and the stillness within. Through this, the space breathes differently, and so does the spirit that inhabits it. The night is not merely a passage of hours, it is a sacred interval where the body restores, the mind integrates, and the spirit renews. Sleep is the quiet teacher, revealing lessons that the waking day cannot. Every dream, every pause of consciousness is an opportunity to reset the energy that guides thought, intention, and action. Placing salt near the bedroom becomes an act of respect for this inner sanctuary. It is not magic, it is awareness in motion. Salt absorbs the residue of tension, the subtle echoes of worry, and the weight of energies that have no place in rest. In this quiet vigilance, the space becomes a shield, supporting clarity of mind and receptivity of spirit. What rests here is protected, what awakens is renewed. Ancient Shaolin wisdom teaches that the body is the temple of discipline, and the mind its guardian. To protect the inner sanctuary is to cultivate harmony within. Boundaries are drawn not through fear, but through mindfulness. Each step taken to care for the sleeping space is a step towards self-mastery. The simple placement of salt reflects the greater practice of awareness, choosing carefully what is allowed to influence the self and what must be released. When the bedroom is treated as sacred, the rhythms of sleep deepen. Thoughts that once scattered settle, emotions find their balance, and the spirit aligns with the quiet order of the universe. Discipline is not only in wakeful effort, but in the intentional shaping of rest. Protecting this space trains the mind to honor limits, to nurture stillness, and to recognize the value of renewal. Through such mindful acts, the home and the self are intertwined. Energy flows more freely, tension softens, and the rhythm of life gains its natural cadence. Sleep becomes a practice, rest a ritual, and the simple presence of salt, a doorway to inner clarity and harmony. The kitchen is more than a place of meals. It is the heart of creation, where energy transforms into nourishment. Every ingredient carries life. Every action of cooking shapes not only the body, but the mind and spirit. In ancient practice, the preparation of food was a sacred act, a ritual that honored both the giver and the receiver of sustenance. Placing salt in this space is an extension of that awareness. It is a simple gesture, yet deeply symbolic. Salt purifies what is prepared, reminding us that what enters the body should also serve the spirit. Each meal becomes more than fuel. It becomes an offering of intention, a bridge between physical sustenance and inner harmony. The act is quiet, almost invisible, but its presence shifts the energy of the space, creating calm and clarity in both thought and body. Mindfulness here is key. Ancient wisdom teaches that the body and mind are mirrors of one another. What is consumed shapes more than energy levels. It influences clarity, focus, and emotional balance. To bring purity and intention into the kitchen is to cultivate discipline and awareness. It is to recognize that mastery is not only in grand gestures, but in the subtle choices that guide daily life. Each time the hands move to prepare, stir, or serve, there is an opportunity to reinforce harmony. The presence of salt reminds us that every action carries weight, every bite carries energy. By honoring what nourishes us, the body becomes a vessel for clarity, the mind sharpens, and the spirit aligns with purpose. Through this practice, the kitchen transforms into a place of mindful creation. It is no longer simply a space of routine, but a sanctuary where discipline, intention, and nourishment converge. What is placed here and how it is treated ripples outward, shaping not just meals, but the quality of thought, the depth of presence, and the steadiness of inner life. The living space is the stage where life quietly moves. It is where conversations echo, laughter lingers, and energy gathers in subtle waves. Every object, every corner carries the imprint of those who inhabit it. Left unattended, tension and disorder can accumulate, shaping moods and influencing the mind without notice. Placing salt in this space is an intentional act of harmony. It does not force order, but gently guides it. The presence of salt absorbs stagnation, inviting calm and clarity into the flow of daily life. In this way, the home itself becomes a reflection of discipline, a living mirror of mindfulness, patience, and care. Energy is not only felt but cultivated, creating an environment where relationships can unfold with clarity and ease. Shaolin teachings remind us that the external world is inseparable from the internal. A disordered room mirrors a distracted mind. A chaotic space nurtures tension and scattered thought. By tending to the environment, one is practicing mastery over the self. Each movement, each placement of salt becomes a meditation, an exercise in awareness and presence. It trains attention, sharpens perception, and reinforces the value of intentional living. The living area is where energy flows most freely, and through mindful care it can flow without obstruction. Here, discipline is not rigid control but the steady cultivation of balance. Calmness in the home translates to calmness in the mind. Presence in the surroundings cultivates presence in interactions. Through such practices, the space is transformed. It becomes a vessel for mindfulness, a silent teacher of patience and harmony. The home is no longer just a shelter, but a partner in growth, reflecting the steadiness and clarity cultivated within. In this simple, quiet way, external order shapes internal mastery, and the rhythms of life move with greater balance and intention. The workspace is more than a desk or a room. It is a center where thought, intention, and action converge. It is where ideas are born, decisions are made, and the mind stretches toward purpose. Yet over time, tension gathers here, subtle and persistent. Mental strain accumulates like dust, clouding focus and scattering attention. Placing salt in this space is an act of mindful stabilization. It does not control thought, nor does it remove challenge, but it clears what is stagnant, allowing clarity to emerge naturally. Each grain is a quiet anchor, reminding the mind to settle, to return to focus, and to cultivate discipline. The environment begins to mirror the inner state, and in this reflection, balance is born. Ancient wisdom teaches that care of the space is care of the self. The same energy that guides our surroundings also flows within us. By tending to the workspace, by consciously arranging and purifying it, we practice attention, patience, and deliberate action. Discipline becomes a living presence, not a distant goal. The simple act of placing salt transforms into a ritual of alignment, aligning thought, environment, and intention. In this way, the workspace becomes a teacher. Each day it reflects back the clarity or distraction within. A calm, organized, and intentional environment encourages the mind to act with purpose, to pursue goals with steadiness, and to make decisions with precision. Energy moves freely, thought sharpens, and the pressure of strain diminishes. Mindful care of the space trains the mind to care for itself. It teaches that mastery begins not only in effort, but in awareness, in noticing what is overlooked, and in shaping the environment so it supports growth rather than drains it. Through this, the act of tending a simple corner becomes a step toward inner mastery, a practice of discipline, and a bridge between intention and action. The act of placing salt is simple, yet within that simplicity lies profound power. It is not the salt itself that shifts energy, but the awareness and intention behind every movement. Every deliberate step, every measured gesture carries meaning. The ritual becomes a mirror of the mind, a quiet practice of focus and discipline. As hands move to sprinkle, arrange, or set the salt, the mind is called into presence. Thoughts that once wandered find grounding. Awareness deepens, And attention trains like a muscle, strengthening with every small mindful action. What seems mundane becomes sacred, a practice of patience, precision, and care. Even a single motion, when performed with full consciousness, holds the potential to influence both space and spirit. Shaolin philosophy teaches that mastery begins not in grand displays, but in the attentive performance of simple acts. True discipline is found in the present moment, in the awareness of each breath, each movement, each thought. By honoring the process rather than rushing to results, one cultivates steadiness, patience, and clarity. The ritual of placing salt becomes a meditation, a doorway into deeper awareness, and a reminder that the mind responds to the care it receives. This practice extends beyond the home. The same attention given to a small act echoes in decisions, relationships, and every moment of life. Presence in action shapes presence in thought. Discipline in small rituals nurtures resilience in greater challenges. Each mindful placement becomes a lesson in patience, in focus, and in the quiet mastery of self. Through conscious acts, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. The space feels lighter, the mind sharper, and the spirit more aligned. Presence in simple actions reveals the path to inner mastery, a path built not on force or struggle, but on intention, awareness, and the quiet power of doing everything with care. Even the purest salt does not remain untouched by time. Its energy, once vibrant, gradually fades. In the same way, the mind and spirit accumulate residues of distraction, fatigue, and unresolved tension. Renewal is not a single event, it is a rhythm, a cycle of clearing, reflection, and restoration. The act of refreshing the salt is a physical reminder of this deeper truth. Replacing or renewing salt becomes more than maintenance, it is a practice in discipline. It calls for attention to what has lost its strength, what no longer serves clarity, and what must be released. Just as one cannot expect a worn tool to perform as new without care, the mind and spirit require continual cleansing to remain sharp, balanced, and resilient. Each renewal reinforces responsibility for one's inner state, cultivating awareness that energy is not infinite, and attention must be tended deliberately. Shaolin teachings remind us that mastery is iterative. It is not achieved in a single act of discipline, but in the steady repetition of small, conscious practices. Each time the salt is refreshed, the lesson repeats, growth is maintained through diligence, reflection, and care. The external act of cleansing mirrors the internal, reinforcing the connection between environment and self, intention and action, habit and mastery. This practice also fosters patience. It acknowledges that imperfection is natural and that renewal is a cycle, not a finish line. By honoring the rhythm of maintenance, one trains the mind to embrace consistency, to value subtle improvements, and to recognize that lasting change arises from ongoing effort rather than sudden transformation. Through mindful renewal, the simple becomes profound. Each act of care is a reinforcement of discipline, a cultivation of spiritual hygiene, and a practice in personal responsibility. Mastery grows quietly, steadily, through attention to what is overlooked, repetition of what matters, and the conscious choice to restore energy both within and around oneself. The home is not just a collection of walls and objects, it is a reflection of the mind that inhabits it. Every space, every arrangement, every trace of care or neglect mirrors the inner state. When attention is given to the environment, it responds, becoming a living extension of awareness and discipline. The simple act of ritual, repeated with intention, transforms the home into more than a shelter. It becomes a mirror of clarity, balance, and focus. Through mindful practices, the energy within the space begins to align with the energy within. Each corner purified, each threshold honored, each intentional placement of salt becomes a lesson in presence. The environment learns to reflect harmony, and the mind learns to recognize it. This is the essence of mastery, external order shaping internal awakening. The house, once a neutral vessel, becomes a teacher of discipline, patience, and subtle awareness. Ancient wisdom teaches that the outer world is inseparable from the inner world. To cultivate the home with care is to cultivate the self. When attention is paid to light, space, and energy, the mind mirrors this precision. Actions become deliberate, thoughts more coherent, and decisions steadier. A well-tended environment strengthens resilience and invites focus, creating a space where the spirit can move freely, unburdened by stagnation or discord. The principle is simple yet profound. Your surroundings reflect your inner mastery. By shaping the environment consciously, you reinforce clarity in thought, steadiness in action, and balance in emotion. Each ritual, no matter how small, becomes a bridge between mind, body, and spirit. The home, once merely a place to live, becomes a companion in growth, quietly echoing the discipline and harmony cultivated within. In this way, tending the space is not a task. It is a practice of awakening, a mirror of mastery, and a reminder that the inner state is inseparable from the world we inhabit. Every small intentional act carries the potential to shift energy in ways we often cannot see. Placing salt in your home is more than a ritual. It is a practice of mindfulness, a quiet gesture of protection, and a way to align your surroundings with your inner state. The deeper lesson lies in presence. Discipline and awareness in everyday life are what open the door for clarity, harmony, and spiritual flow. Each mindful action, no matter how simple, creates space for balance and invites movement that is both subtle and profound. The home becomes a reflection of the self, and the self becomes more attuned, grounded, and open to guidance. Take these teachings gently into your daily life. Notice the small details, honor the spaces you inhabit, and let conscious intention guide even the simplest routines. Over time, these practices cultivate steadiness, awareness, and a quiet harmony that extends far beyond the walls around you. Thank you for joining us in this journey. May your home and mind find clarity, your spirit find calm, and your presence create alignment in every moment. If this insight resonated, like this video and subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire to continue exploring the path of mindfulness, mastery, and ancient wisdom. Peace begins in small, deliberate steps, and it begins with you.